Honourable Ministers, Chair, and esteemed colleagues, it's an honour to speak to you on behalf of Natural Resources Canada, NRCan, as many of you know it. We are Canada's federal department that's responsible for energy, minerals, metals, forests, and earth sciences, and we do house the Canada National Mapping Agency and the Remote Sensing Agency. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you about Canada's vision of geospatial technologies and their applications. I'd like to start by providing some context, followed by some examples that demonstrate where we are heading in Canada. Geography is important to Canada, and we have a lot of it. It's the second largest country in the world, nearly 10 million kilometers squared, with the world's longest shoreline at 243,000 kilometers. It takes 7 days to drive from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Vancouver, British Columbia, assuming you're going the speed limit. To fly from Halifax to Vancouver takes 7 hours. Canada has 6 separate time zones: Newfoundland, Atlantic, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific, and we have an abundance of natural resources, huge reserves of energy to massive tracts of forests, and an abundance of minerals and metals, which are an important part of Canada's economy. And now we have a new natural resource: data. Information and data are viewed in Canada as a global currency. It's often quoted that 80% of this information or data has a spatial component to it. I understand that last year's theme for the Geospatial World Forum was monetizing geospatial value, so I don't need to persuade you of the considerable economic and social value of geospatial data. We know that spatial information contributes significantly to the Canadian economy, in the range of billions, and we are looking forward to the completion of a Canadian economic value study and sector scan that will put a dollar figure on the Canadian geospatial sector. Stay tuned this fall. In Canada, we are also of the view that the true value of geospatial data, like all data, will be realized upon its liberation and its use by government for public policy and public good, and by industry and all citizens for a wide range of innovative uses, such as participation in the applications economy. To this end, the Canadian government has embraced open government with 3 streams: open data, open dialogue, and open information in the Open Government Action Plan. Key aspects of the action plan from a geospatial perspective are the next generation open data portal, data.gc.ca, which houses 191,608 data sets, of which 185,011, 96.5%, are geospatial data sets, and the Open Government License, which removes restrictions on the reuse of all types of published Government of Canada information. Data, including geospatial, information, websites, publications, and aligns them with international best practices to promote the reuse of federal information as widely as possible. In June 2013, Prime Minister Harper signed on the G8 Open Data Charter that points to the 5 principles that are enunciated here on the slide as a set of norms and standards for the proactive release of more high-quality, user-friendly data that is unrestricted in its use and reuse. And those principles are open data by default, quality and quantity, usable by all, releasing data for improved governments, and releasing data for innovation. So, in a nutshell, open data is the rule in Canada, not the exception. And it's one of several drivers that's underlining transformation within the Canadian federal government. At the same time, as we are opening government data and information to increase transparency and accountability as catalyst for national innovation and economic growth, we're also using open data and open government to modernize the Canadian public service. And we're calling for increased citizen engagement, whole-of-government approaches to service delivery, smarter use of technology, and a higher performing and networked workforce. We're increasingly implementing enterprise-wide policies, standards, and directives across government, including a geospatial standard, to reduce redundancies and streamline operations. We're consolidating key services across government to achieve greater efficiencies. More specifically, in the geospatial realm, we're dealing with many challenges and opportunities as depicted on this slide in common with other governments, many of which are outlined in the report, Future Trends in Geospatial Information Management, the 5 to 10-year vision, endorsed by the United Nations Committee of Experts on Global Geographic Information Management in July of 2013. Many of you know them. They include the rapid pace of technological change, the issue of budget constraints that many national governments face, rust out of critical geospatial infrastructure, no single source of Canada's authoritative geospatial data, barriers to sharing and integration of data, and increasing demand, which is exploding in our view. 94% of respondents to a recent federal survey indicated that every department was in need of more and accurate geospatial data and information. So within this context, geoSMART solutions, as recognized by the conference theme this year, are absolutely essential. And over the next few slides, I'll take you through some of the actions and the initiatives that the Government of Canada is undertaking to ensure, to the extent possible, an enabling infrastructure and context within geomatics and Earth observations is well understood, and that open, authoritative, accurate government data is easily accessed and used effectively to solve the most pressing public policy problems. So, one of the first things that we did, because of technological convergence, until July 2013, the Canada Centre for Remote Sensing and the Mapping Information Branch in NRCan's Earth Sciences sector were each responsible for distinct but parallel geospatial value chains. In 2013, in June, we joined these organizations into a single entity, the Canada Centre for Mapping and Earth Observation, to integrate both disciplines within a single centre, recognizing that imagery and mapping work together in concert to produce better and higher value solutions that address Government of Canada priorities like sovereignty, safety and security, responsible resource development, among other policy issues. In merging the management of NRCan's authoritative geospatial supply chains into the CCMEO, as we call it, we've adopted the mantra of satellite to mobile. And we are working to realize efficiencies by reducing duplication and streamline internal processes, as well as those we share with others that are responsible for data production and manipulation. It's early days for the new organization, but our vision is that CCMEO will apply innovative thinking at each step of the value chain to ensure that the right data is acquired, transformed, liberated, and that the right products are being created from our data to meet the needs of users. The focus will be on extracting more value from our existing data resources and adding more value throughout the geospatial value chain, from acquisition through business integration, so that Canadians can benefit from open, national-scale authoritative data. But NRCan's only one of 21 federal departments and agencies that acquire and manage geospatial data to fulfill their respective mandates. In 2012, we created the Federal Committee on Geomatics and Earth Observation, also known as FCGEO, to work towards a whole-of-government enterprise solution for geospatial and Earth observation data. Federal departments rely on geospatial data related to weather, resource development, endangered species, national parks, national defense, census data, public health data, and oceans management, among others. The challenge that we face is to enable easy discovery and access of all federal government data holdings. The Federal Geospatial Platform, which is a bottom-up leadership effort, introduces efficiencies into the management of Government of Canada geospatial resources along the value chain by using a common platform of technical infrastructure, policies, standards, and governance that will render interoperable and open up government's vast storehouses of geodata and imagery for new and innovative uses. This integrated national system will contribute significantly to avoid unnecessary duplication, fragmentation, and overlap of service, while speeding production. Take, for example, the current situation compared to what we envision the future situation. It takes weeks to months currently to find the data owner, acquire and manipulate the data, conduct the analysis, generate the reports, and verify them as assured, accurate, and authoritative. With the Federal Geospatial Platform and the efforts that we're undertaking, it'll consolidate the significant number of steps, as you see here at the top, allowing users to search once and find everything and produce the necessary public policy discussion and potentially decision in a much more rapid manner. With the FGP's visualization tools and analytics, public, private, and academic sectors, as well as individual Canadians, will be able to create new value in a variety of ways. For government, this translates not only into efficiencies, but also the ability to act on information more quickly in the public interest in key priority areas, and further to render authoritative Canadian data accessible by regional and international initiatives, as for example, the Arctic Spatial Data Infrastructure and GEOS, as discussed in previous days. Of course, none of this would be possible without government investments in critical infrastructure and system improvements that support geospatial data collection, generation, and production activities, including those from space. One of our central policy documents is the federal budget, entitled Canada's Economic Action Plan. And in 2012, it ensured that NRCan could continue supporting our federal partners, such as the Canadian Space Agency, through strategic investments in the installation of 4 satellite antennae in 3 strategically located sites across Canada that provide full coverage of Canada's landmass. Due to its strategic location in Canada's far north, the Inuvik satellite station facility has the potential to become one of the world's largest satellite and space data receiving facilities. And I'd like to say we're open for business. Presently, 2 antennas are hosted at this location, one owned by DLR, German Aerospace Center, and one owned by a partnership between the former Swedish Space Corporation and the Centre National d'Études Spatiales, CNES, the government agency responsible for shaping and implementing France's space policy in Europe. Also, I understand that the Indian government also has a relationship with CNES that allows them to access some of the data that comes from Inuvik. So we certainly have an international view with respect to our investments. In response to national and international demand, I'm pleased to say that the Inuvik site could host up to 15 antennas in the next 10 years. And NRCan has recently expanded the site to ensure that this demand from our international partners is met. Each year, thousands of images, primarily RadarSat data, pass through NRCan's infrastructure in support of the safety and security of Canadians. We rely on leading-edge satellite science and technology to provide real-time data and information on our landmass to address a wide range of topics that are important to Canadians. As in many other parts of the world, flooding in Canada is a serious natural hazard that occurs both seasonally and sometimes unexpectedly. The outcome can be catastrophic. The use of satellite-derived Earth observation provides the opportunity for a near real-time overview of a flood situation that contributes significantly to reducing and/or mitigating these losses. Through the Emergency Geomatics Service, EGS, the Canada Centre for Mapping and Earth Observation is moving our science into operations to generate products required by emergency responders at a range of levels and jurisdictions, so right down to the level of municipalities. Now, what's really essential in all of this are strong partnerships and collaborative relationships, and they exist among federal departments. Now, in Canada, there is also strong collaboration with others in Canada. Now, we have a decentralized system, and as a result, we don't really have a legislative framework that one would have in the European community, for example, through Inspire. So governance of geospatial management in Canada is therefore based on a cooperative approach between the federal, provincial, and territorial governments, industry, academia, nonprofits, and professional associations. It takes work to nurture these relationships, but it works for us. A very successful example of multi-stakeholder collaboration is our Spatial Data Infrastructure initiative. I hope that some of these examples have provided a glimpse of where Canada is going in terms of geoSMART solutions across the geospatial value chain and within the purview of government. I hope that we can work with many of you in this room and that we continue to share best practices and that we continue to learn from one another as we work together in the international sphere to create a geoSMART planet. Thank you.